And here we go.
Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, that's enough. Yeah.
Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
Hey, look, we're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Boy, there's a lot to talk about today as the NCAA tournament rolls on. Rick Barnes back for at least a decade. Well, that may be a little bit strong, but he said he'll be back and coaching at Tennessee next year. Why? I still have my doubts. And we'll discuss his comments coming up on the program. Also, Jeremy Pruitt is saying that, hey, I think it's about time you give me $100 million, which seems absurd off the top, but I think he's got somewhat of a point. We'll discuss that. Also, this day in Tennessee sports history, the stat of the day, why Kent State, that game against Tennessee, was a little quirky. Their head coach has been placed on administrative leave. And maybe for point shaving, if you remember, Tennessee gave Kent State the opportunity to have a running clock in the second half. They didn't. Is there a tie in there? Also, I know this is a stunner, but Georgia has a player driving over 100 miles an hour. I know you can't believe that, but it's a fact. Also, Miles Kitselman is banged up in spring practice. How big of a deal is this? It's significant. Ethan Davis, can he become a star headed into his sophomore season? I think he's one of the most physically gifted players on Tennessee's roster in terms of size-speed ratio. So the answer is yes, but he better be ready. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
Doing tremendous, Dave. Just amazing. How about you?
I'm fantastic. It's a gorgeous day. Ready to get to the weekend, ready to watch some basketball. And go ahead and click that like or subscribe button. Get on board right now. It is time for today's tough question, brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. So Rick Barnes makes some comments about his future. Can we play that? And then we'll discuss how long he is committed to the University of Tennessee. And good morning to all those on the message board. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be watching.
Yes, and I'm pulling it up now. This is Rick Barnes. This was during the NCAA tournament, classic press conference that they do right before games. And he was asked specifically about his future after this year. And here is what he said. I'm going to pull it up now.
My last press conference at Texas when I was fired, the last question someone asked me was, do you think you'll coach again? And I had already accepted the University of Tennessee job. And I made the comment, yeah, probably sooner than you think. And I literally walked out of that press conference and got on a plane and went to Knoxville. And at the time when something like that happens, the movement parts in, out, you're somewhat numb. But I made the comment that the athletic director at the time, Steve Patterson, fired me. He didn't really fire me. He just carried out what God wanted him to do. And because that I really, truly believe that God brought me to Knoxville for a reason. And everything that I do, I want to live on that platform. It's the most important thing to me. It's more important than winning that game tomorrow. And I think God will make it perfectly clear when he wants me to step down. And my time will be up, but it's not now. I mean, if it is, I don't feel that. But I love coaching basketball. I love being around it. I know right now how hard we're working right now. We've already had a young man on campus after we got back Saturday, Sunday. We had a young man on campus that committed to us. And
okay, so a couple of things to unpackage that. One, Tennessee has continued recruiting. Now, and I can't remember if it was the News Sentinel story or if it was On 3's story, but he had one quote that to me made it sound like he was a little bit more open-ended. Then when you read into more quotes, I want to read that quote to you. And Caleb, it was this saying, quote, Let me pull that up. We're already planning to have a team next year. I fully plan to be a part of it. That's a phrase that he is going to use at some point to cover his rear. And the reason I say that, Caleb, is because he will still be a part of Tennessee's basketball program, I believe, even after he's not the head coach. So I think he'll be some sort of an advisor. He doesn't leave on any sort of bad terms. He's a benefit to the athletic department just to have him around. That leads us to today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Based off those comments, let's make it a poll question. How much longer do you expect to keep Rick Barnes as the head coach at the University of Tennessee? Let's go 1, 2, 3, or 4 years or more. Boom. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun.
All right, Caleb. So how much longer? 1, 2, 3, 4, or more years? I give you those options.
Sorry, I was writing out the poll question real quick as we answer that. But, you give me those options, Dave. I'm still saying 4 or more years. I know I'm crazy. I know. I get it. I know you guys think I'm crazy. But I keep saying this, and I got a column about to come up on this right now, that it's time to put these Rick Barnes retirement rumors or this retirement talk to rest. Rick Barnes has so many things that really serve as pure evidence that he's not going anywhere. One, the reason he's in this, Dave, he said it there. And if you know Rick Barnes, you know he's not lying. Rick Barnes is in this because he believes God put him to be in this. He believes he is carrying out God's wishes to develop and coach players. I mean, I would assume you probably think he believes that too, don't you?
Him. I think most coaches lie. I think he's the exception to the rule. He's that 5% or even 1% that doesn't. So I think he's planning on coaching next year. I wouldn't go beyond next year, just personally, because I know how close he was to retiring last year. I wonder if he thinks he's getting Zakai Ziegler back for next year. That may be a motivation, because he could still go after another year. I don't know that he could get it. I don't know that it's going to happen. Obviously, they didn't have much luck with the Alberto Osunda situation. So, and I haven't even heard Ziegler say that he wanted another year, but that would make a lot more sense in the timing of it. Now, the potential pitfall is this. If he coaches 4 more years, listen, when you get past 50 or probably even 40, there's a precipitous fall off in your amount of productivity unless you stay on top of it. So I'm not saying that'll be him, but if there is, it's understandable. And the last thing you want is Tennessee barely making the NCAA tournament in his last 2 games. And then, Caleb, it kind of leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. That's the one thing I'm afraid. That's the one thing I'm concerned about, because his legacy at Tennessee is so incredibly strong. I would hate to see him go out on a bad note.
Well, it wouldn't. I see. Here's the thing. He wouldn't, because here's the other reason he's in this. He's not just in this for the coaching and developing of young men because he believes that's what God wants him to do. Again, he's the one person who believes that. I'm not usually one of those people that is like, I'm never usually a fan when someone said, God chose me to be this person that was in this enviable dream position of mine. But like in this case, I think he believes that. But number 2, and this is a big one, Rick Barnes is one of the unique old coaches positioned to benefit from the changes of college basketball. He may hate NIL. He may hate the transfer portal. Nobody benefits from the transfer portal better than Rick Barnes does. It's like literally, if you know about Rick Barnes' coaching style, he's positioned to thrive in the transfer portal. Meaning he's going on 70. He is 70 going on 50. I've told you guys that. Rick Barnes is 70 going on 50 because uniquely, the style of coaching he does was outdated in the 2000s and the 2010s, but it's actually perfectly aligned with the times for the 2020s because he likes to develop players. He's going to get a bunch of one-and-done seniors who are really good at the lower level who will embrace his coaching because they want to fine-tune a part of their game. That's how you get Dalton Connect. That's how you get Chaz Lanier. And he's going to get another one next year. We just don't know who. But like this is going to keep coming. So that's a huge part.
Today's tough question is also our poll question. What are our options again, Caleb?
Based on what Rick Barnes said Thursday, how much longer do you expect him to stay at Tennessee? 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years, or 4 more years? 4 or more years.
Let's get the answer to that. Brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. Banks & Jones. All right, Caleb, give me the results of our poll question, which is today's tough question. Be sure and fill in the message board if you would like, and tell us exactly why you think Rick Barnes will coach 1, 2, 3, or 4 or more years. But what is the poll question on the YouTube page? We encourage you to check it out.
Based on what Rick Barnes said on Thursday, how much longer do you expect him to stay at Tennessee? 38% say 2 more years, 25% say 1 or 3 more years, and then 12% say 4 or more years. I'm on the 12%. I think he's here for 4 or more years. I'm just going to ask you, Dave, if you saw a coach in his 50s, would you think he only has 4 years left?
No, but I don't agree with you at all that he's
Rick Barnes is effectively in his 50s.
You've never been 50 or 70.
Yeah, but okay, hold on.
No, it doesn't matter.
No. The last two
you don't know what it feels like to be 50.
The last 2 presidents elected were 78 each. If you can be 78 and elected president for 4 years, you can be a head coach of basketball at 70 for 4 years.
I don't know. You got a lot of aides when you're not bad aides, but good aides. David said if they don't grant that 5 for 5 rule this year, he loses ZZ, Chaz, Gainey, Meshack, Igor, Dubar, and Carr transfer. That's why Orange Blood says only 2. I'll stick by what I said a couple of weeks ago, and I got absolutely torn apart because I'm not supposed to tell another guy when to retire. I'm just telling you, my concern is that he stumbles down the stretch, and this is the perfect time to retire. No matter what happens, you're at least in the Sweet 16 again. You've coached your players. Let's say Ziegler's moving on. We don't know that yet, but you don't have him. It's the absolute perfect time to move on. And Orange Blood is absolutely right. Man, your health can deteriorate in high-stress jobs at that age. It certainly can. Now, I've learned things about Rick Barnes through doing some digging that he's a pretty relaxed, chill guy. So I don't know that he feels a pressure like a lot of coaches. Like, I get the feeling that Rick Pitino absolutely detests going to practice and thinking about the challenges he has to face until he's on the court. I think Rick Barnes is pretty chill, listening to some kumbaya driving down the road as he goes to practice.
This is not high stress for Rick Barnes because he's not lying when he says he's not in it for the results. He's in it for the development of players. If a player wants to develop and learn from him, great. If they don't, that's their loss in his mind. Okay, this is Rick. He's not stressed doing this. He is thriving doing this. This isn't like, this isn't like Nick Saban, who I do think like Nick Saban did love developing players, but Dave, come on, Nick Saban was in it to become the greatest coach of all time, wasn't he? He wanted to be that more than anything else.
I think it was pretty 50-50 with him. I do think he liked developing players like Barnes does, but he definitely had more hubris than
Yes. Yes, exactly. He was on a mission. Rick Barnes, I think, is fully in. I think he is fully committed to just developing people and players. I look, if Rick Barnes retires without a national championship, I don't think he cares. I don't think he has a trophy case for a ring.
I've got people that are like, say that you have a government job or a military job. I've got people that I know that are talking about retirement, and some have even retired, Caleb, because you do the math. If you start in the military at 18 years old and 25 years, that's 53. So a lot of people are retiring. People ask me, when do you want to retire? I don't want to retire. I love my job. So, I see Howard Stern doing it till 70. That's what I would like to do. But I just don't know that that's possible as at a head coaching position where things could go south in a heartbeat. The flip side of that is I don't think Rick Barnes will get worked up about much of anything. And I think if Danny White comes to him, now you can't say you slipped or something like that because you risk an ageism lawsuit. But if you say, hey, I just think we need to go in another direction, I don't think Rick Barnes is going to throw you under the bus. I think he would still be happy to be a part of the program in a consultant's role, and you could package that a little bit differently. Orange Blood points out that Joe Paterno coached until he was 84, 85, and he was probably forced out after that debacle. He was. There have been other coaches. How old was Bobby Bowden? And I do find it interesting. I don't know about Paterno so much, but I think a lot of the long-term coaches like Bowden probably had that good moral, faith-based center that gave them comfort when things didn't go so well coming down the stretch. So, listen, I think that Rick Barnes obviously deserves the pass to coach as long as he wants to at Tennessee. And I mean that even if Tennessee's struggling to make the NCAA tournament 4 years. I just think this is the perfect time to walk away. Now, he is about, I think, 35 games or so away from being Tennessee's all-time leader in basketball wins. So that would be that at Tennessee, and then he's the all-time leader at Texas. So it does paint a picture that if Barnes wasn't able to make the Final Four, which would be his second and would erase a lot of doubts about his career, you're the number one all-time basketball coach in terms of wins at two different places that are football powerhouses that you didn't have the same support that North Carolina and Duke have. That's a pretty darn good resume, even if it's just one Final Four on his resume.
Yes, and I need to address a couple of things for some of the things people said real quick. Rick Barnes is nowhere close to Joe Paterno, and I mean this in not just in the crime against humanity Joe Paterno overlooked. Guys, I was living near Penn State country at the time. Joe Paterno had not been coaching for a decade plus. He was literally a weekend at Bernie's. Like they were like pulling him up with puppet strings. It was honestly sick to watch that Joe Paterno would have that level of an ego that I get to stay Penn State's head coach, but not coach at all. He didn't do anything. And by the way, last 5 years, Bobby Bowden didn't do anything either. Watch their press conferences. They didn't know who their players were. I can guarantee you.
If Paterno so much as stubbed his toe, he was in the press box with his
foot up, getting credit for the win.
No, I agree. I mean, Rick Barnes does not have, and basketball just in general, you don't have the opportunity to kind of be I'm sitting in the chair coach. He's going to be the head of the program. He's not going to be.
Except Pat Summerher last year, which that was just a disaster all the way around for a lot of reasons.
No, it was. But he's not going to be a coach in sleeping like Joe Paterno.
No, he's not. And I mean, again, for those who don't
sleeping, I thought I'd get some more love from that. Coach in sleeping.
I love it. No, that's a good one. I do love it. I mean, go back and watch Big Ten Media Days the year Joe Paterno was fired. He was asked about 7 questions. Who's your starting quarterback going to be? Who is your starting running back? He was like, I don't know. We haven't played any games yet. How do I know that? That was literally his quote, guys. How do I know that? We haven't played any games yet. Like, that's not an answer you give at media days if you know who your players are. Okay? Rick Barnes is totally fine. He's going to be here for a while. And he's just, like he said yesterday, he just recruited Troy Henderson. He's not lying about that. That's a 4-year developmental guy that he loves coaching.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly a splash pickup.
That's who Rick Barnes go. These are the people that he's in the business for, Dave. He's in the business for guys like Zakai Ziegler and Troy Henderson. That's who he loves coaching. That is where he puts his focus and his energy all the time.
Okay, let's dig into that a little bit later in the program. Also, I remind you that we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is just absolutely fantastic, and they have the specials that you need to know about this weekend. And I'm telling you what, it lasts until Monday morning. Let me tell you a little bit about it. The final weekend of Truck Month, Ted Russell Ford, East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer, has 69 brand new trucks ready to roll with special pricing and exclusive financing offers. Now through Monday at 8 p.m., dealing on every single truck. The F-150, they have the Super Duty. Special financing is available. It's super easy. They got to clear the lot, and you're going to love the buying process. It's unbelievable. Check them out. Ted Russell Ford, Ted Russell Lincoln, on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike. You'll be happy you did. We certainly appreciate them. Get better, Andy White, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or
All right, it's time for Hot or Cold, brought to you by our good friends at City Heating and Air Conditioning. Hot or Cold will focus on Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt, with a $100 million lawsuit against the NCAA, makes some strong mentions about Tennessee, how they were already cheating beforehand and he was a scapegoat. What do you make of Jeremy Pruitt's allegations?
I mean, hey, man, go for broke, right? That's the way I look at it. If you can go for broke, go for broke. I mean, I'm not sure he'll walk away with $100 million, but look, you told me that a source told you that Jeremy Pruitt basically said, if I go down, I'm taking the whole university down with me. Didn't he say that?
I don't remember telling you that. Did somebody else on the program tell you that?
Maybe it was somebody else. Someone said, I remember that if I go down, everybody's going down. In particular, Philip Fulmer, he said. But he basically tried to make the point that he's bringing everybody down with him if he goes down. And yeah.
Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. We get into some of the factors surrounding this lawsuit, and it could get ugly. All right, Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. You can read about Pruitt, his $100 million buyout, and why I think the NCAA and the Vols should release him from his show cause penalty. So let's start with number one. That is it. Hot or cold? Hot, you agree. Cold, you do not. Jeremy Pruitt should get his show cause lifted. You have to keep in mind that everything that he did, Caleb, is now totally by the book and upheld by the rules of the NCAA. So hot, he should have it lifted. Cold, he should not.
I'm going to say cold, and here's why. Sheer stupidity. I think there needs to be a stupidity clause where, like, even if it's not a rule that it's not a bad violation. This is why I agree with Bruce Pearl's show calls, by the way. You lied about a barbecue where if you didn't lie about it, it would have been a slap on the wrist. Sometimes stupidity is enough for me. I've heard people say this with baseball in the past. There's a debate about steroid users who belong in the Hall of Fame. And someone I know says that he thinks steroid users should go to the Hall of Fame. He said, except for Roger Clemens. Because Roger Clemens dared Congress to subpoena him and asked them to force him to take him to trial and put a criminal trial on him. And then when they bring a criminal trial, he refuses to testify. So he should be kept out of the Hall of Fame just for stupidity. And I'm kind of that way with Jeremy Pruitt.
All right, here we go. I've got the old queued up finally. I'm hot. I think that they should. And I actually was going to write this before he sued the university. I was planning on writing that this week. And that is, now everything's legal. I think he was a scapegoat to some extent. I think he got the 6-year show cause, which was too much from the get-go. He didn't get his full buyout. He now can't coach. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I know he's a little bit of a doofus, but I do. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Over 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
All right, what about this? I'm going to split this up. Our next question was originally Tennessee and the NCAA should settle with Jeremy Pruitt. I'm going to switch that up a little bit. Let's go with this. Tennessee should settle with Jeremy Pruitt. Hot or cold? Hot, you agree. Cold, you do not.
I don't think they should. I'm cold. I'm still cold. I think that Tennessee doesn't really owe Jeremy Pruitt anything. They cut bait with him. They parted ways. They handled everything right. What are they going to do? Is the NCAA, given the NCAA's new policies on punishing schools, if Jeremy Pruitt's claims are true that Tennessee was cheating before he got there, which would mean Butch Jones was cheating and Dave Hart was cheating, and John Curry maybe was cheating, the NCAA is not going to put Tennessee on probation now for that. That's not what they do anymore.
Well, maybe not. I'd probably stroke the guy $10 million check and call it a day. Have him sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and move on, because he does seem like he's got an axe to grind. And I don't blame him for having an axe to grind. The question is, how's the grinding? I mean, was Tennessee really cheating? And you don't want Philip Fulmer drug into this, which Pruitt said in the lawsuit that Fulmer, he told Philip Fulmer, then the athletic director, that there were some payments going on, and Fulmer said, I'll handle it right away. That's pretty troubling, and I don't think you want your all-time greatest football coach drug into this and your own reputation. I think this could be ugly. Now, this is different. The NCAA should settle with Jeremy Pruitt. I'm cold on that. Absolutely not. Because the NCAA can leave Tennessee twisted, and don't think that they won't. They will. So Tennessee, I'm red hot.
That's hot.
And they should try to get this done with, settle it, get out of town with an NDA. But the NCAA, nah, I'm not cutting a check. We're close to $100 million.
No, I wouldn't cut a check for close to $100 million. Where I would sue, though, I'm hot on him suing the NCAA, and I'll tell you why. I would sue with the show calls, because Tennessee fired him, and you did point this out in your column. Tennessee fired him for calls, so they don't have to pay his buyout. But then the NCAA gives him a show cause where he can't work anyway. And now he's being held back for not being able to work for violations that aren't violations. So ever since 2022, when the NCAA, when NIL came out, you could say maybe 2022, 2023, I don't know which year, because there's when the NIL came out, and then there's where the NCAA accepted that they won't punish for any recruiting violations. Every year Jeremy Pruitt's show calls is up, or is in existence after that, he should sue for lost revenue and lost chances to make a salary because of what the NCAA did.
I think that's essentially what he's doing, isn't it?
Well, okay, I don't think he would have made $100 million during that time, but
I wouldn't. I mean, you're going to ask for more than you expect to get. So let's say $3 million a year if he was a defensive coordinator. Is that fair?
Probably,
so that's
okay.
So that's $18 million over the course of 6 years, and then he was going to get about $20 million as a buyout from Tennessee. Is that right?
$38 million, yeah.
So you're getting about halfway, and you want to double it up to try to find a happy medium. I agree with the message board. I think he just wants the show cost dropped. I think this all goes away if you say, hey, you can coach next year. And listen, there's nothing, he may be a doofus, but there's nothing wrong with being a little empathetic. I mean,
no, I agree. I mean, like, I want him coaching, and I actually think that, like, look, players do like him. Players that he's coached do like him. Like,
and then is there any chance that Tennessee would consider hiring him if Tim Banks moves on to a head coaching job? Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Okay, now, if you want to drop the column in the message board, do so. I have to admit that in some ways this was a playful little dig at the whole silly process. And that was Tennessee should consider hiring Jeremy Pruitt if Tim Banks ever gets a head coaching job, which he's going to eventually. But the more I think about it, the more
that's hot.
I think they should. He already knows the university. You work this out with the NCAA, let bygones be bygones. You're going to take a risk on another defensive coordinator when you know he's a great one. He could come open next year. Tennessee could have an opening next year. Do you think they would consider it? Should they consider it, Caleb?
Tennessee won't do it themselves because of what's happened and how they really, as he said, made him a sacrificial lamb, I think was the quote. But if
that does feel like that bridge is burned, does it not?
Yeah, it does. That doesn't mean I wouldn't hire him, though. I'm not going to lie.
There's a difference between would and should.
Yeah. I would hire him. The dude knows ball. I guys, and go back and look at Jeremy Pruitt's talent evaluation. And I've already suggested that they should hire him as a GM. You're seeing GMs get hired all over the country. Andrew Luck just fired Stanford's head coach as the Stanford GM. Did you see that?
Yes.
And so, yes, no, I would hire. I would absolutely consider hiring him as an assistant or as a GM or something like that. He is the best talent evaluator Tennessee's ever had as a head coach. I can honestly say that straight up. I don't know if you knew one on Tennessee staff when you covered Tennessee back in the day, Dave. I don't know if there was a member of the Tennessee staff that was just superb at scouting talent, but I mean,
probably Dan Brooks was really good, defensive tackles coach.
Oh yeah, Dan Brooks and Trooper Taylor, right?
Guys, he didn't miss on guys. Trooper Taylor I was going to mention him as well. Really, the talent evaluation was all about Phillip. I mean, it came down to Fulmer.
But Phillip seemed to miss on quite a few with his talent evaluation.
Dan
Brooks over Patrick Willis.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as a whole, they certainly missed. You don't mean Dan Brooks. You mean Daniel Brooks? Yeah,
Daniel Brooks. Yeah, sorry, Daniel Brooks. Sorry, Daniel Brooks,
the coach. Yeah, but I mean, he hit on 90,
and then not recruiting Randall Cobb until he was desperate.
Undersized. A lot of other people didn't. The Pat Willis is the big one. I mean, that's the monstrous one throughout his career. But as a whole, I think he did a pretty fantastic job of evaluating talent. And I think that was his ability. I think that was his skill. Now, Dylan says I'd hire him as a scout, but that's about it. Not a big fan of Pruitt, obviously, but what he got, the way Michigan seems to be getting away with stealing signs, I agree. He was just paying players. Pruitt was a good DC under Saban, but he was a mid at Georgia.
That's unfair. Jeremy Pruitt and Mark Richt had completely different philosophies on how players should be coached during that time period, and they really clashed a lot. And by the way, just so you know, when Mark Richt was fired, the players wanted Jeremy Pruitt to stay around.
Yep, there we go. Oh, as a matter of fact, actually, this might be the reason I would never hire him again. He got in some players' heads 2 years ago, not last year so much, but 2 years ago. One was James Pierce. There was a continued
Jeremy Pruitt?
Yeah, there was a continued contact there. And I can't help but wonder, if you have that ability to get in a young man's ear, you say, oh, well, you can go that 4-point stance. That's pretty awesome. But by the way, those coaches are using you wrong. You can, if you have somebody's ear, you can undermine their bosses. So I've always wondered if that happened. As somebody told me,
you think he was undermining Mark Richt?
I think I don't think he was undermining Mark Richt. I think he was undermining Josh Heupel in Tennessee. I think he had a close connection with Pierce. Then who all was involved in the incident before the South Carolina game?
Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, and Jeremy Banks.
Okay, I was told Jeremy Banks, huge Pruitt guy, and that led to not directly, but you had a guy who's a huge Pruitt guy. Exactly what I was told. That ended up causing a huge distraction. So I'm putting two and two together in my head. And what's he telling Jeremy Banks? Is he telling him be the best teammate you can be? Or is he saying you got to look out for yourself and this team's going down the crapper?
Okay, final hot or cold then. Does Pruitt have an axe to grind like a 12-year-old child against Tennessee?
That's hot.
Yes. I don't think the axe to grind with the NCAA is like a 12-year-old child, because I'd be, based off what he did and the way the sport has changed, I'd be damn mad about getting a 6-year show cause. I don't think that's childish. I think not getting the money from Tennessee, if you're still upset about that and the buyout, that's childish.
He's trying to undercut them.
Hold on. You all out broke the rules in your contract. You don't deserve a buyout.
And think about the stupidity of this. You are undercutting Tennessee in a childish, petty way, which is going to hurt your future chances at getting hired by other schools, isn't it? After the show calls is up,
I don't think suing potential employers is a good way to go.
This guy's dumber than I even thought he was.
Yeah, he's probably very malleable. He's probably a guy that somebody could call up, let's say an attorney. I mean, I don't know if the people out there remember on the message board the whole Inky Johnson thing where I interviewed him and he was glad to get interviewed, yet I got suspended for the Alabama game. I had these journalism groups coming out of the woodwork offering $4,500, $10,000, all this money to sue. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be in Knoxville covering Tennessee. Do I really want to be the guy that sued the university? I was close, but I didn't end up doing it.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
I see on the message board, yes, definitely he wants blood. Pruitt has to be jealous of what Hype has done. It's like watching your ex dump you and an upgrade, I guess. All right, so stat of the day is what, Caleb?
After Thursday night Sweet 16 games, which, by the way, John Calipari once again choking away a tournament game in the final 5 minutes because he cannot coach. Only one team still has their men's and women's basketball programs alive in the NCAA tournament right now.
Okay, who's that?
Geez, I wonder who it is.
I don't know. It might be Tennessee. We'll see.
Might be Tennessee. Tennessee is the only team in the nation with the men and women's programs still alive in the.
That wasn't the most challenging stat of the day for a guy who digs up numbers from nowhere.
Why is Dave hating? That's a good stat, okay?
I'm not hating. It's just the end of the week. I've lifted all week.
Haters gonna hate.
Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. 2 minutes and why they're just continuing to pile more on Boo Carter. I don't understand. Off the Hook Sports. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Okay, let's give everybody a quick update. So you can put this in a nutshell, Caleb. For those that haven't watched the program lately, share our perspective on Boo Carter. Yours and mine are very different. Go ahead and if you can, encapsulate me that. I can't believe I'm asking you to paraphrase me in a quote. I don't know where this is going to go, but I want everybody to know where we're coming from before we move forward, because I'm going to kind of stick with what I got going. I wonder if Caleb will change things. All right. So where do we stand? How would you best encapsulate that?
I would encapsulate it as Dave thinks Boo Carter is going to be used as a wrinkle on the offensive side, may get a couple of catches here and there. Whereas I think Boo Carter is going to be the starting slot receiver.
Okay. And to take that a step further, I also think that they're playing with fire, and they could end up with an injured defensive back or a fatigued defensive back. And I don't like the whole direction that this thing is going. And I think it could end up being more of a distraction and a problem, because I think it's Boo Carter who is pushing this agenda that he gets to play offense. I know it's exciting. I know it's neat and all that stuff. But here's the bottom line is Tennessee's Willie Martinez said what yesterday at practice? He had this to say, and I thought it was very telling. So, and I've got the wrong story pulled up. Do you have that story up, Caleb, on Boo Carter?
Let me see what Willie Martinez said. Oh crap! I think I've got the wrong story too.
Anyway, they said that they're going to put more, and they have put more on Carter, and he's going to basically call the back end of the defense. Why would he do that? Because Keenan Pilley called the defense, and he is gone. Now, he never really got to call the defense, and they just had a scramble with Arian Carter. But you're going to have Boo Carter calling the defense. You're going to have him playing some offense. You're also going to have him returning punts. It's too much on him. He's just a sophomore. This is an absolute fiasco waiting to happen. And listen, I know a lot of you aren't going to agree with me. I know Caleb's not going to agree with me, but I got to ask the question, and that is, what the H? Brought to you by Double D Piping.
What the H?
Wow, I never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. Banksandjones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Wow, that's a really good point. Hey, Ashley, we're going to get to the Miles Kitselman thing next. Hang tight. I got some insight into that. But Dylan said this. Dion really got into Boo's head, making him think he's the same ballpark as Travis Hunter. I do think there's something to that. I think that Deion Sanders has had an adverse effect on Tennessee's football program because he told Boo Carter he was going to be the next Travis Hunter. Do you think this is putting too much on Boo?
I can't believe it, but Dave, I'm actually coming to your side. Yes, I am. I do. Look, I have been defensive of Boo Carter playing both sides for a while. I think that's insane if you have him calling the plays on defense. I mean, that's insane. There's a reason in baseball pitchers aren't good hitters. They have to focus on their pitching, right? So there's a huge reason in baseball that, there's a huge reason in football that you would never want your quarterback playing defense. If you're the one calling the plays, Boo Carter can't just be the guy making plays on defense. He's got to study the film too, doesn't he? He's got to learn. He's got to be the quarterback learning what the other team's offense does during the week more than anybody else.
If he's making the back end calls?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was pretty simple earlier where I was kind of ready to come on board if it happened in September. I still have my doubts he's going to play a lot on offense, but I was willing to come around if he did, because that star position, you're pretty much locked up on the slot receiver. I mean, I know they play a little bit of zone, but it's not the most complicated position to play. But now he has to call the back end of the defense. I mean, why in the world can't somebody else do this? Why is he asked to do this? I can tell you part of the reason, because he's a little closer to the box and he's going to see more than a free safety or even a strong safety would. He's not on the outside like a corner. But this to me needs to be T-Lander's job, Carter's job, somebody else's job besides Boo Carter. If you really want to play him on offense, it feeds into my narrative. This is all a dog and pony show.
I mean, it's either a dog and pony show or they are literally going to run Boo Carter into the ground.
This is a player too. There was maturity issues during his recruitment. Caleb, he changed high schools in Chattanooga. I have great ties in Chattanooga. I heard a lot of things about how physically, man, he's awesome, set. He's going to be incredible. Emotionally and mentally, he needs some tough coaching. He didn't have that in high school. A lot of guys don't because they say, I'm so good, I don't have to have tough coaching.
Yeah, and look, if there's one thing that if there's one area where that could be an issue, Josh Heupel, I mean, tough coaching ain't really his mantra, is it?
No.
But at the same time,
yacht coach, and you can win in both ways.
You can. Now, Rodney Garner is a tough guy, but he's not coaching Boo Carter. Tim Banks and Willie Martinez are. Here's the problem with this. Again, if he's calling the plays, then I would have to think it's a dog and pony show. They're not going to acquiesce to these demands and also have him call the plays. What if they're doing this, Dave? Okay, how about this? This is coming to my mind. Method to the madness. What if they don't want Boo Carter playing offense, but they need Boo Carter to willingly take himself out of the offense so he's not unhappy? So they're calling the defense on him. So then he realizes it's just too much and that he can't do this.
Well, he's never going to do that. You're never going to pull yourself out on offense. And another good point by the message board. Oh, I dropped it. My bad. Here, let me see if I can pull that back up. Now, Colton says maybe he's that advanced. Maybe he is. But Orange Blood said, here's my concern. He runs his mouth too much on the field. Penalty risk.
You kind of like that in a defensive back, though.
I don't have a problem with that, but it speaks to his lack of maturity last year. You should be immature as a freshman. The question is, has he taken this quantum leap in the offseason where he's able to play another position and call the defense? That to me is asking an awful lot.
No, it's asking too much. I agree. I think they're trying to put all that on him. I think they want Boo Carter to make the decision that he doesn't want to play offense. Okay, and this is their workaround.
Oh, okay. That's where I was going. So you beat me to it. Yes, I think they're trying to say we're giving you more responsibility. We haven't had a lot of junior captains, but you're in line for that. We acquiesce with the offense thing during spring camp, but let's be honest, you're a borderline captain. You're calling the defense. We need you there. Yeah, you could spin that just like a 12-year-old child, how you're not getting what you want, and you'll be in this position before long when Quincy gets a little bit older. But you can spin it into, no, you really got what you wanted. When you
Okay, the best example I see of this is it's Modern Family, where I think Haley, the oldest daughter, gets really drunk and hungover the next day, and then Claire just starts giving her stuff to make her hangover worse, to make her really feel it. So like that way, Claire's like, I don't have to tell her not to drink anymore. I'm gonna make her hangover suck so bad she's not gonna want to drink anymore. So that's what I feel like they're doing with Boo Carter. They're like, we're gonna put so much on him that he himself is going to be like, I don't want to do all this, man. I got to back off some of this.
Now, Dylan brings up a great point. And if you can share our poll question, we'll get to that here in a moment. Dylan says, I will say we need a diva in the receiver room. We need somebody with some moxie that'll get guys going, but we're stretching Boo real thin. I will agree with you there. But again, he can do that in spring camp by getting to know these guys and talking trash to them throughout practice while he's playing defense. So we'll get our poll question up and out, which is what, Caleb?
Our poll question is, Vols are putting too much on Boo or making Boo a star? It's basically...
All right. It's brought to you by Double D Piping. What, the H?
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in...
What's our poll question, Caleb? Where does it stand?
Our poll question right now is, it's 55-45, putting too much on Boo, but it keeps going 50-50 and going either way. So it's tough. 11 votes right now, with 6 saying putting too much on Boo and 5 saying making Boo a star. Keep voting on this, guys. It's tough. I do think if they're having Boo call the plays, they're putting too much on him. But again, I'm saying this now. There's method to the madness. They're purposely putting too much on him in spring practice, so he won't. So he will ask to be taken off offense.
Right
later in the year.
Do you think they are asking too much of Boo and he isn't asking for it? Well, of course he's asking for it. But if it gets to be too much, you better say uncle. And listen, if I were Boo, I'd ask to be the head coach at the University of Tennessee when I'm done. I would like to be the coach in waiting. Why not? You can ask for anything. It doesn't mean you're going to get it. Now, David brings up a really good point. And this is the way I would have acquiesced Boo Carter's demand to play offense. Boo Carter could do what Fulmer should have done with Eric Berry on offense. They were playing their best athlete on offense. Okay, but what did Eric Berry do for those that don't remember, Caleb?
Well, and he didn't play much on offense for Philip Fulmer. That was Lane Kiffin that used him on offense, where Lane Kiffin would have Eric Berry come in on like a gadget Wildcat play, do a handoff, and run with the ball. And Eric Berry wasn't the only one who did that. Nukees Richardson did that.
See, that's so easily doable. It's run right, run left, run a gap, run right a gap. I mean, that's so doable. Learning to be the slot receiver at Tennessee that does have to make reads on safety is another challenge. Altogether. And I'm trying to remember on those Eric Berry teams. I know he was a leader, but he was not a vociferous leader. So who were some of the other defensive backs? Did he have to be the tried and true sole leader of that defensive backfield?
Well, during Fulmer's year, his 2 years under Fulmer, his first year he didn't. Jonathan Hefney was in the secondary his freshman year, and Jonathan Hefney was the leader of that defense to the point where I think Jonathan Hefney made some real sacrifices to his NFL potential to help with what was needed that year. After that, yes, I think Eric Berry did have to step up and be a leader, particularly with I do believe Brett Vinson was working on the defensive side at the time, but then Lane Kiffin dismissed him from the team.
Even Brett Vinson didn't think he'd have a shout out today. Now, one last point on this. Adam says our coaches can't afford to make someone fail at the team's expense. They'll be jobless. Let me clarify. Okay. They're not going to do so in the fall. They're going to put more on him in the spring if that's what they're thinking. And then in the summer, he's going to be dog tired because of how much they do at the skill positions with summer workouts. And then when you get into fall camp, no, you're not going to put him in this position.
No. But that's what the thing. You're right. They want him completely exhausted. They're going to give him a playbook, by the way, of like, you want to do both? This is everything you need to learn in the summer. And then he's going to be like, oh man. Or here's the other way they could do this, Dave. They could put so much on him knowing he won't learn it all. And then they were like, you better be ready at fall camp to be able to handle all this. Otherwise, we're not going to do this. And then he comes in fall camp and he's not ready for some of it. And they're going to be like, well, we told you you're not ready for this. So you can't play offense. And it's on you because you didn't learn it all.
Here's all you got to do. He has the leverage right now. He could jump in the transfer portal today. All you got to do is get to the fall. You just got to get to that last week in July when you start preseason camp. And then he's not going to go anywhere because it's in his best interest to play hard. He might be miffed and wants to transfer from the opening game because I didn't get to play enough offense. That's fine. You're still going to play your hardest throughout the season and not be a malcontent to make yourself as likable by not the NFL. You'd have to play another year, but as likable by a potential transfer destination as you are by Tennessee's coaching staffs. You just have to get to that last week in July, and then you're golden. And he can be as upset as he wants to, and I don't give two bleeps.
The only factor and the only reason I would push back, Dave, is there is still that elephant in the room, which is Deion Sanders. Because you talk about Pruitt being in Jeremy Banks' ear. I'm telling you, a guy like Deion is probably still in Boo's ear every day. You know, if you were,
I wouldn't argue
with that, playing both sides.
I wouldn't argue with that. But listen, if I think Boo's going to transfer after the 2025 season, that's a problem for January. That's not a problem for now. I'll deal with that in January. I'm not going to worry about Deion potentially calling him during the season and it affecting my coaching decisions. I'm just not going to do that.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun, Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb. This day in Tennessee sports history. I imagine it's some basketball.
It is. And I actually have to correct myself real quick from the stat of the day. Tennessee's one of two remaining teams. Duke is the other team with the men's and women's program in the Sweet 16. I apologize up front.
It's officially the flat of the day. Just flat all around.
Chlorophyll, more like Boerville.
It didn't take much digging, and it wasn't even correct. All right, what's this day in Tennessee sports history?
I hate you, Dave.
Let's all keep our fingers crossed and hoping that this one's accurate.
Today is the
people all over East Tennessee are going to be going around saying Tennessee's the only team that has it's men's and women's.
Oh yeah, that's what they're going to. Okay,
they are, and then other people are going to say no, Duke does, and they're going to go, damn it, Caleb's so stupid.
And then those nerdy Duke fans are going to be like, don't you know about Duke? We have so many good teams. We have one more team in the Sweet 16.
All right,
Sorry.
Another voice.
As I go
all right,
watch Star Trek.
What do we got?
By the way, Star Trek's fine. I got no beef. Okay, so 20 years ago today, on this day 20 years ago, and I looked it up, it was on this day, Tennessee made the defining decision that propelled their basketball program to what it is when they hired Bruce Pearl on this day 20 years ago, March the 28th. And for those who don't remember, that was kind of an out of the blue hire at the time. If you guys forgot, they had fired Buzz Peterson, and they were talking to Bobby Knight for a minute. Do you remember that, Dave?
I do remember that.
Yeah, and there was talk that they could lure him from Texas Tech. But Mike Hamilton wanted – Bobby Knight had even though he ran the motion offense, the style was a little bit boring. He needed a little more flash. And Mike Hamilton, to his credit, did his due diligence and learned about the system Bruce Pearl runs and zoned in on the tempo. And I think that – at that point, Bobby Knight, Bruce Pearl as a cheerleader, and with his style, Mike Hamilton knew he had hit a home run, and he did.
All right. So, by the way, post on the message board, we're going to go back to the stat of the day. As it appears to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but does Florida still have the women's and men's basketball team alive in the NCAA tournament?
I don't believe Florida has the women's I think Florida's in the NIT, aren't they? Yeah. Florida's not. Florida's in the women's basketball invitational tournament.
Okay. Should that count?
No, it shouldn't count.
Yeah, I realize. And as far as the comment that you made, what is that? German? I don't know. Sounded like he had a little bratwurst in his mouth. Probably not the first time.
Bratwurst is great. Have you ever had bratwurst?
Oh yeah. Adam says, so our coaches, I want to go back to the boo thing for a second. So our coaches are lying about their intent to their best players early in their careers. Yes.
Sometimes you have sometimes parents.
Sometimes, all the time.
And by the way, sometimes it's for their own good. Don't parents sometimes have to lie to their kids?
If you think if you think Mike Matthews, for instance, is going to bottom out and not be a good player, are you telling him that, boy, some really sad days are on your horizon? No, you're telling him that he can be an all SEC player. And to take it a step further, Adam said if he transfers next spring because we were dishonest, someone else gets booed for his best year. That makes very little sense. I'm not saying you want it to happen, Caleb. I didn't say that, did I?
No, you didn't.
But if you can keep him happy and you think he's the guy that needs to call your defense and you get this year out of him and you wonder if he's got one foot out the door already, then you just have to deal with it in January. You can't carry on during the season thinking, oh my gosh, man, this game against Georgia is so close. It's a 3-point game. But wait, is Boo happy? Where's the boo-meter? Because if he hasn't played at least 5.5 plays, you know how fussy he can get next week in practice. You can't do that. So I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying you would have to manage it through this year. And I have trouble believing, based on the things I was told about him as a senior in high school, that he's suddenly the most mature individual in the world. It's just been 2 years. Things have gone his way. I think he's going to have to really have a gut check and an ego check this upcoming season if he doesn't get what he believes he was promised on offense. I don't believe he's been promised anything. I think he's been promised an opportunity to compete. Caleb, that's how you package that. You don't say you're going to play 10 plays on offense. You don't give away any numbers like that. It's just like buying a car.
No. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. You don't, I mean, you could say you're going to play, but again, the move here is to make, like, you know, my wife says she does this to me, and this is in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. If you guys have ever seen the movie, women do this all the time with their men, and I haven't been able to learn how to reciprocate the skill, but they like to do things, but they want their husbands to think that they came up with the idea because they don't want to look like they came up with the idea. And I'm telling you, that's what they're doing with Boo Carter. They want him to come up with the idea of I shouldn't play both sides of the ball.
No, I agree with that. So let's set the second hour up. because I think Kent State might have been shaving points. And I wonder if, in retrospect, Tennessee's win over them was as impressive as we believed. Are there any Tennessee football games versus Kentucky with the same magnitude as the Sweet 16 game? I would say no, but Caleb thinks there might be. So we'll dive into that. And I know this is going to stun everybody. And if you're not stunned, click the thumbs up button. But Georgia has another player driving over 100 miles an hour. Because why? That just seems to be the number to shoot for. Kind of like 4 or 5 in the 40, so to speak. You best a 4 or 5. You're one of like the top one.
And this is based on the arrest we covered last week, but now we have the details of the arrest involving Nigel Tuggle.
Yes. How old's Pac-Man Jones, by the way? Random.
No idea.
Okay. Saw him run a 4.51 40 at his current age. That is
one of the most wasted talents of all time. I mean, the dude still had a good NFL career with all the trouble he got into.
Yeah, I know that's out of left field, but all right. I want to remind you that, man, they got trucks, a ton of trucks right there at Ted Russell Ford. It is on Parkside Drive in Kingston Pike. Man, absolutely unbelievable. The final weekend of Truck Month. Ted Russell Ford, East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. The deal you're going to get, you'll never forget, at Ted Russell Ford and Ted Russell Lincoln. You can go to tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net. Check out their used inventories, but they've got brand new ones like F-150 Super Duties and more. Special financing available. They got to clear the lot. That's Ted Russell Ford. Again, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln, Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire.
Come on, guys, it's game time.
4 downs. Can you count? 4 downs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Okay, Caleb, I've gone on record with this, and that is this is Tennessee's biggest basketball game in its athletic history. I think the fact that you have an opportunity to go to the Elite Eight, which would match the deepest run, which Tennessee has done twice in the NCAA tournament, and beat a rival makes it that much more special. So, Caleb, you agreed with that, correct?
Yes, I did agree with that it's the biggest basketball game in history. And I think we both agree if they win, it's going to be the biggest win in school history. Like,
Yes.
that's not even a question.
Yes. Well, and I guess maybe I misphrased that a little bit. So your next step into journalism and broadcast is, you said this morning, have there been any Tennessee football games against Kentucky that had the same magnitude as the Sweet 16 game? So initially my response was absolutely not, because I think this is the biggest game in Tennessee basketball history. If they win it, it will be the biggest win in Tennessee basketball history. So obviously, I don't think so. And Kentucky has been a team that Tennessee has basically just destroyed for the vast majority of both our lives, Caleb. So I'm curious what you can come up with here as we'll go ahead and dive into 4 downs. First down will be brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. Cooper Mays, sir, what should people do if they want to be a part of the program?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Coop here. First down.
All right. The first game you have is what, 2007?
Yes. So in 2007, Tennessee football played Kentucky on the road. This was when Kentucky had Andre Woodson, and they played them for a chance to win the East and go to Atlanta. Now, Kentucky wasn't playing to win the East, so the magnitude, you could say, wasn't exactly the same. But Dave, if you forget, Kentucky was 7-4 at the time. Maybe they were 8-3. I think they were 8-3, and they were favored in that game. They were favored against Tennessee, and Tennessee needed 4 overtimes to beat them that day. That was when Eric Ainge set a school record for 7 touchdown passes. I don't think touchdown passes in college overtime should count, but that's my own theory. But still, he did throw 7 touchdown passes, and that game was legendary for so many reasons. But the magnitude of it was huge, because you're Tennessee, you're an underdog in this game, and you got to win it to go to Atlanta to play for the SEC championship. I think that kind of rivals the Sweet 16 game.
That's fair. I can take that one. I'm interested to see where you go with the remainders.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Sounds so mean. 1976.
Yes, and this is right before Bill Battle got fired, funny enough. But Tennessee was, I'm pulling up the numbers now. Tennessee was 5-4. They were still trying to play to go to a bowl game and be bowl eligible. Kentucky, meanwhile, was 8-3. It was 7-3, 6-3. Excuse me. They were playing 7-3. Yeah, they were 7-3. They were playing to win their first SEC championship in 26 years and only their second in school history. Kentucky won that one 7-0. That clinched them a share of the SEC title. It's one of their only 2 SEC championships that they've ever won.
Yeah, and let's face it, the world is not right when Kentucky's winning an SEC championship. Can we all agree on that one?
Yes, but that's pretty impressive that they won it.
It is impressive. It's also bizarre. You wouldn't imagine them ever winning something like that. But
that was when Garrett Bryant was in his heyday at Alabama. That's the craziest part.
Yeah. All right. So we've got, what's next? What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
What's third down, Caleb?
All right. I'm going way back in history, guys. 1929 and 1931. These are 2 brutal ones for Tennessee. Basically, in both instances, Tennessee entered the final week of the regular season perfect, 8-0. And they were playing to win the Southern Conference title outright under Robert Nealon with Gene McKeever as their star. Kentucky was playing to finish with a winning record in both instances. And it was at Kentucky both times, and both times Kentucky tied Tennessee. So in both instances, Tennessee finished 9-0-1. And that the 31 loss cost Tennessee a trip to the Rose Bowl. Or not, the 31 tie, excuse me.
Third down brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Follow them below. Go to facebook.com and Sports Treasures TN. Again, Sports Treasures TN. Fourth down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Use the promo code HOOKED, and their rearranged store, easy to get around and find out exactly what you need on Kingston Pike. HDKnoxville.com. Caleb, what is fourth down?
4th down is 1950. Now, I want to point out from 1949 to 1951, Kentucky was number 11, number 3, and number 9 when they faced Tennessee. And 50 and 51, Tennessee was number 3 and number 9, respectively. The highest ranked combined game between Tennessee and Kentucky was 1951. Tennessee was 1st, Kentucky was 9th. But Kentucky was 7 and 3 at the time and should not have been ranked at 51. So I'm throwing that one out. So I'm going to 1950. Tennessee was 9th. Kentucky was 3rd. Kentucky was perfect, undefeated, playing for a national title. Tennessee was 9 and 1. This is the best team Bear Bryant ever had. It's the best team Kentucky football ever had. I've told you guys the story before. Tennessee's going to play Kentucky. They're hosting Kentucky. And the week of the game, the Great Appalachian Storm in 1950 hits. A massive blizzard strikes the stadium. Tennessee fans refuse to shovel the field because they want to create as much chaos for Kentucky as possible, knowing Kentucky's the better team. Because of that, Dave, there were 17 fumbles in the game. 17 lost fumbles. Tennessee wins that game 7-0. That ends up propelling
17 lost fumbles or 17 fumbles?
17 lost fumbles.
Good Lord. How many fumbles were there? Surely they didn't recover every single one.
No, they were lost fumbles. Yeah, no, Kentucky.
But how many fumbles were there total?
17. Oh, total. I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, they're having more fumbles than the 17 that were recovered by the opposite team.
Well, the blizzard was it was bad. It's the worst blizzard in Tennessee history, 1950. And Tennessee won 7-0 because of that craziness when everybody knew Kentucky was the better team. Tennessee is now able to declare 1950 as a national champion. But because Kentucky played one more SEC game, they claimed the SEC championship, and then they went to the Sugar Bowl to beat Oklahoma. So Kentucky also claims a national championship from 1950. That's the biggest game in the history of Tennessee-Kentucky in any sport, Tennessee football versus Kentucky in 1950. And it really led to, I don't know if you guys know the stat, but Bear Bryant never beat Robert Nealon, ever.
No.
And
now, let me ask you this. What year did you say the biggest snowstorm in Kentucky, Tennessee football history
1950,
was?
that game.
1950. Take that, global warming nuts.
That's hot.
All right. Miles Kitselman with a torn pectoral muscle. How big is this? I think it's very significant because he's not going to be able to participate. And I keep harping on this, how you can get so much done in the summer if you're a skilled position player. So I think it's very significant. I'll go ahead and say bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. This will slow his development at the University of Tennessee as he goes into what should be his contract year, what should be his big year in terms of being productive for Tennessee. So I think this is a big blow for the Vols. Now, I think he'll be back. A torn pectoral muscle, he'll be fine. I don't know how serious it is, but he'll be fine by preseason camp. But Caleb, I think it's a big factor. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. I'll get Caleb's take after 30 seconds from Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life.
All right, Caleb. So do you think this is a significant blow for the Vols?
I do, because Miles Kitselman had turned into their best tight end last year. And for those who don't remember, Miles Kitselman and Holden Stays both transferred to Tennessee last year. And there was kind of an open competition over who would become the primary tight end. And Miles Kitselman ended up winning out, which is why Holden Stays entered the transfer portal. And I don't think anybody really felt bad about Holden Stays entering the transfer portal. Everybody wishes him the best.
I'll take it a step further. Kitselman is Tennessee's best receiver returning from last year's team.
That is wild. Okay, I can give you that. I can actually give you that. I mean, he was really picking it up late, too, running the right routes. They really settled on him. So this is a big deal. This year, though, and here's the – I think they were trying to do a twofold with tight end this year, weren't they? They were trying to do the Princeton Fant Jacob Warren thing, weren't they, where they alternate each drive, and Ethan Davis would be the athlete tight end that gets the big special plays, but Miles Kitselman makes the catches in open space as the mismatch and is the goal line tight end.
Yeah, I think as it turns out, though, Kitselman can do a little bit of everything, so I don't think they're as pegged as they were with Warren and
Fant.
Sorry.
But I'll say this, in terms of raw potential as a tight end, can we not agree that Ethan Davis has the most of anybody at Tennessee since maybe Jason Witten?
Well, I think he has the most potential at Tennessee. I think he has the most potential to be an elite player on Tennessee's team at his particular position.
So one of the reasons maybe Tennessee shouldn't be as worried about this is maybe this is now the time for Josh Heupel to spread the field and make Ethan Davis a superstar. And this could be the moment. Look, sometimes
that doesn't depend on Josh Heupel. That depends on Ethan Davis. He was not ready to take that jump last year, and I thought he would be able to. At some point, you have to go from a talented player who has all the potential in the world to a player who is living up to that potential. And so far, I've heard all of the things about Ethan Davis in spring practice, and that sounds great. But at the end of the day, he's got to do so in the fall. So while what you're saying is how you would hope things are playing out, I certainly don't know that that's the case.
So my question to you, Dave, is, aren't there moments where you've seen guys take like maybe plays off or not be as focused in spring practice, but then they become the guy because they have to, and all of a sudden they are fully focused and fully all in on doing what they need to do?
Yeah, but not any more than I've seen them get totally washed over by the expectations and the increased responsibility. So, I mean, it could go either way.
Oh, it could. It could. I don't know what, I mean, you tell me. So you covered the 98 team, I know. Let's just ask about Travis Henry. Was Travis Henry prepared to step into the role when Jamal Lewis went down, or did he think he was just going to be a backup that year? What did you guys see that in practice, that he was going to be that good?
I didn't know he was going to be as good as he was. I mean, he was like a 7-time Pro Bowl player in the NFL, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about before Jamal Lewis went down in that 98 year. Did y'all see signs of Travis Henry in practice?
If Jamal Lewis was an A+ running back at the college level, is that fair?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody thought that Travis Henry was an A-. He might even be a flat A, but he wasn't as talented as Jamal Lewis. I still like his running style more than Jamal Lewis because I thought he dogged it for a good
But did you see the signs of Travis Henry being that good in practice before he had to step in for Jamal Lewis? Or was he taking plays off because he knew he wasn't the starter?
I don't think he was taking plays off. I think Travis was the type of guy that, was like a dog. You say sick it, and he sicked it.
Okay.
That's what he did.
So he did that in practice too?
Yeah, I thought he was a good practice player. No, I mean, but they were all good practice players back then, because if you weren't a good practice player, you didn't get on the team. I mean, you didn't get on the field, excuse me.
So I'm just wondering where this line goes, because like Ethan Davis, like to me, all of this Kitselman injury is as bad as Ethan Davis allows it to be.
Okay.
I think this is an opportunity for Ethan Davis to become an All-American.
Well, and they're still going to have Kitselman back by week 1. I believe that firmly. I don't believe that with Jamad McCoy at cornerback with the ACL, but I do believe, based off what I've been told, this is a pectoral injury. This is something that you can easily get to heal, or you can anchor it down, which sounds just awful. It makes me never want to do bench press again. But you can anchor it down if you want and have it fixed. So it's a very repairable injury. Very repairable. So I wouldn't be concerned about week 1 with him. McCoy, I would. Ashley says, not going to lie, this is the least excited I've been for football in a while. I don't know why, Ashley, because I will tell you the overriding factor in this football team is that Nico Iamaleava is in year 2. We've seen every single player excel at the highest level, especially at the skill positions. We've seen every single one of them have their best year under Josh Heupel in your dose. It's like Dos Equis, go for dose.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that vibe from Vol fans a lot recently during this all season. I think that's going to change soon, but it has kind of been noticeable that I get it. Tennessee didn't meet my expectations last year. There were a lot of things that went wrong last year that we could talk about, and they still went to the college football playoff, and their loss, they lost in a blowout in the college football playoff. I think the way it feels doesn't match with the actual data of what happened. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah.
Because it feels like you lost the college football playoff game that you didn't belong in, but you lost on the road to a team that blew out everybody to go win the national championship.
Yep. And I will agree with Sam on this. He says if he's back by week 1, then it's not an issue at all. I think Kitselman is very mature, made a business decision to come to Tennessee, made a business decision to stay another year. I think you absolutely are dead on, Sam. And I think he's going to be watching a ton of tape when he's not out there in summer workouts. I think he will be good to go probably I would imagine enter summer workouts somewhere in the middle and participate in some of that. But from a mental standpoint and from a physical standpoint, I feel really good about him being ready in week 1. So I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. If it goes on, it's a big deal because not only is he Tennessee's best tight end, but like I said earlier, he's Tennessee's best receiver.
Yeah, but is it possible that with him out, Ethan Davis balls out and then just never loses the starting tight end spot?
Well, there's not really a starting tight end spot.
There's not a lot of starting spots in this depth chart, to be fair, except for receiver.
They're all going to be playing at tight end in particular. They want to play too. So I don't think there's a starter and a second stringer. I don't think that's applicable at tight end because they want to play a guy for a drive. I mean, theoretically, they want it to run just like 2022, where Fant was in for the entire drive, and then you had the next the next drive, Warren was in for the entire drive. That way they can run tempo. Those bigger guys, and I think Jacob Warren would attest to that, it's a little bit more difficult to run tempo for a full 60 minutes as a bigger guy that has to block as well, which is why they like to sub in there. Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety and great selection and strict standards. Use the promo code HOOK. That's HOOK for 10% off. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. At the end of the day, if Miles Kitselman isn't Tennessee's most productive tight end, then Tennessee has a problem. I don't think Ethan Davis is ready to take a quantum leap. Does that answer your question from my perspective?
Yeah, no, okay. So you think it's still Miles Kitselman's job no matter what, and then Ethan Davis is going to get involved, but it's still Miles Kitselman's job. I just think that there should be an opportunity for Ethan Davis to really supplant himself because of just how talented he is. I never thought they should do the whole the Fant and Warren thing, Dave. Weirdly, I thought they handled that wrongly because I felt I would have had Princeton Fant be in the offense all the way up until about the 25-yard line and then put Jacob Warren in because he's such a big target that you can't guard him on the goal line or in the red zone.
Yeah, but I don't think you plan for the tight ends, which tight end you're going to have in the red zone because you don't sub during drives. Unless you've got Lane Kiffin.
That's true. You don't sub. That's true.
I mean, unless you got Lane Kiffin on the sideline having one of his players fake an injury, and then you can run. You would have always wanted Fan on the goal line, right?
Right. Exactly. That's true because you want to run the ball. So yeah, that
wasn't always doable. So
you mean Warren?
What?
On the goal line. Sorry, I meant Warren. I thought you always would have wanted Warren on the goal line.
No, I think you wanted Fant because of what he was able to do.
Oh, because of the handoffs in the under center and the
he was a more athletic guy that made it easier on Tennessee. Now I will say this for a second. I'll give Miles Kitselman the ultimate compliment, and that is I hope he's a Dallas Cowboy one day. Because I think not only does he have the maturity, I think he's got every bit the physical ability. We talk about how talented Ethan Davis is. If Ethan Davis is physically an A+, then Miles Kitselman is at worst an A-. He is an incredibly talented physical specimen. So I think it's too easy just to earmark them as one super talented, one's just a hard worker and physical. I think that's oversimplification. I like Kitselman a lot. He might be the best player at his position on this team. So you do not want to lose him for an extended period of time. The other question is, who's your second tight end if Kitselman were to be out? You'd have Davis and who? I mean, that's where it gets really complicated. And you can't go out and get one in this spring portal.
Deshaun Brame, the freshman.
They should have held on to Stays.
Well, yeah, but they couldn't shell out the money. Stays really wanted to go start somewhere. I can't blame anybody for that. That was just how it
I would have
worked.
found the money.
Well, they got two tight end. They got two commitments as freshmen, though. So I think they're like, you know what? For if Kitselman doesn't come back, we'll just turn to one of them. I think that's their thought process on that. It was worth trying to. It was worth
first
one of
year freshman tight end in Josh Heupel's system
as a backup tight end. It was worth one of the backup. Okay, because now if you just have one tight end, Dave, you can go. What we talked about, you can go. I think Heupel's hoping he doesn't have to go 12 personnel that much this year, so you can run Ethan Davis one drive and then go 4 wide on the other drive.
The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Kent State might have been throwing points. Yes, I said that. And the University of Georgia with another player driving over 100 miles an hour. How many people do you have to endanger before Kirby Smart is on the hot seat? I hope it's happening now. Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. 2 minutes off Oak Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The super dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire.
A guy with a lot of jobs, but this one is the most important.
This is not government work. As such, I treat it with care and attention.
Until someone else calls. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
We're going to have some calendars this fall with Tennessee's schedule on it. And maybe to make it even more likable by our fan base, no offense to the ladies out there, we might have a model on there wearing some sort of Tennessee, I don't know, what do you think? Like an orange bikini, or should we go with a Tennessee jersey? What should we go with, Caleb? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, put me in a bikini. There, that's a selling point. Just put me in one.
So anyway, I have to spend some of my free time hunting down models online. Is that creepy at all for a 51-year-old man?
I mean,
it's for work. I'll share all the messages with you. I'll screenshot them. It's not like I'm saying, hey, would you like to model for Off the Hook Sports? And you can get on the hook.
I'm sorry. I told you guys earlier in the week I've been watching Righteous Gemstones, and all I'm getting
might have been the dumbest thing I've ever said.
Called of Baby Billy.
That might have been the dumbest thing I've ever said on this program. But anyway, let's move forward. As I want to talk about Kent State here for a moment. Ashley said jersey. What do you mean jersey by? I don't know what Ashley means by jersey. Ashley, perhaps you would like to be a model for us in our upcoming calendar that will be out and about in the fall, and you'll be able to pick it up at various locations around East Tennessee. Dan says it's creepy. Well, Dan, I'm trying to make the business bigger and better. I'm looking out for Quincy Calhoun by hunting down women that will wear a bikini in public. That sounds really weird. All right, Kent State might have been shaving points. They weren't scoring a lot of points last year. Caleb, what's the latest you can tell us about their coach has been placed on administrative leave? And, this is a team that Tennessee thumped. And this was a team that they went to and they said, oh, jersey over bikini, Ashley. Okay, deal. So this is at one point they went to Kent State and they said, would you like a running clock? And they said, no. Score as many points as you want to. We love it. Thank you, sir. May I have another? And Kenni Burns is now placed on administrative leave.
Yeah, so what happened is, and there's a lot of details in this story that I have to break down because I have to say up front, there is no hard evidence of what I'm saying. I'm not trying to libel us, but I'm just trying to say that the behavior of Kent State is very suspicious. So I'm going to take a step back. Dave, going into last year, remember what I told you? It was about a month before the season. We were ranking Tennessee's easiest games. And, cliche, you would think Chattanooga, the FCS team, would be Tennessee's easiest game, right?
Yes.
And I told you going in, I said, no, Kent State is going to be the easiest game for Tennessee. And what I said was Kent State was 1-11 the year before. They have the worst head coach in college football in Kenni Burns. And that was my exact quote. I said they have the worst, maybe the dumbest. A guy who said at one point, some coaches like to see the field from an analytical perspective, but I don't like to think about he basically said, I'm not a guy who does X's and O's. I'm just a CEO. That's my job as a head coach. I'm like, okay, so you're saying you don't know ball, but you're a CEO. That's what Kenni Burns said. And I'm like, okay, Kenni Burns is dumb. He's a terrible coach, and Tennessee's going to blow out Kent State. Now, Tennessee plays Kent State. They jump to Dave, don't forget this. They're favored by 49.5 and the over-under 62. They cover both at halftime. They jump out to a 65-0 lead at halftime. A 65-0 lead. Second half, they say, Josh Heupel goes to Kent State and says, you want to do a permanent run clock, get the game out of here. Kenni Burns says no, which was weird. Like, wouldn't you want to rest your guys from MAC play at this point?
Yes.
So, but he doesn't. He says no. Tennessee goes and wins 71-0 because Josh Heupel doesn't run up the score in the second half. Maybe much to Kenni Burns' chagrin. Later in November, on November the 20th, it comes out that Kenni Burns, Kent State's coach, has $24,000 in credit card debt. Now, Dave,
by the way, if you want to comment on our calendar and whether or not it's creepy that I'm looking for models online, we'll continue sharing those comments from the message board. But keep your train of thought, Caleb.
You have if you're a head football coach making $500,000 a year, $24,000 in credit card debt and getting sued by an Ohio bank over that's a little weird, isn't it?
Yes, makes me feel like you're on the wrong side of a bookie. Unsung says any good-looking woman in Tennessee gear is hot. Continue.
Well, Kenni Burns came out and said this is because of a remodeling and moving project he and his wife underwent. Do you believe that for a second?
No.
Okay, so that now, just yesterday, Kenni Burns was placed on administrative leave. Now, you can't say it's due to lack of performance. People are talking about, oh, he's awful. Well, if you were going to do that, why wouldn't you place him on leave or fire him in November? There's clearly something else there, right?
Yes.
I want to add to this point. Kenni Burns made my football IQ 1 week last year because, and it wasn't the Tennessee game, Dave. Kent State played Akron the day before his credit card debt story got leaked. I don't know if you know the story of what happened. There were 10 seconds left in the first half, okay? Akron caught a pass to the Kent State 10-yard line. With 4 seconds left, they had no timeouts and the clock was running. You're Kent State, you get a break, right? Oh, we're going to go into halftime. They can't stop the clock. Kenni Burns took a timeout to allow Akron to kick a field goal. I thought that was Kenni Burns panicking. No, at this point, I got to look back. He called a timeout because the only explanation is he was trying to let Akron score. So I got to get to the point of all this added was Kenni Burns shaving points last year, and was Tennessee part of a point shaving scandal that involves Kenni Burns?
Well, not part of it in that they were
not that they were involved in cahoots, but were they just in a game in which Kenni Burns was shaving points?
Okay, let me address that. Before, Ashley says she would be down to be the model, but unfortunately I don't live in Tennessee, but she's got somebody else for me. Her name's Sabrina Carpenter. So go ahead and send me your contact info.
Sabrina Carpenter is really, really attractive.
You know who that is?
Oh, yeah, she's a great singer. And she has some really nasty lyrics, too.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that. Ashley, maybe you, because I don't know we can afford Sabrina. But I will say this. I don't know if that's the situation with Kent State. I don't know if there's point shaving going on there or not. But I do have trouble believing that the NCAA, with the way gambling is so pervasive now, and the way we're all talking about NIL and transfer portal, it feels like I'm moving this hand over here, right, Caleb? And this left hand like a magician's doing something.
Correct.
I'm not saying the NCAA would be in cahoots. I just think that if they knew of a potential gambling issue that was going on, which it almost has to be given the influence of gambling, you would not admit to it until you absolutely had to. I mean, until the feds are involved. You don't think the NBA knew about Tim Donaghy way before the feds got involved? They definitely did, but they didn't want that to come out. Gambling is the one thing. It's not paying players. It's not the transfer portal. It's not coaches making $5 bajillion a year. Gambling is the one thing that can ruin any sport. It absolutely can, even more so than PEDs. And because I will tell you this, if I want to watch a sport that the outcome is decided, then I'll just be like Wade Houston and watch The Young and the Restless, because that's what I love about sports is the end is undecided. So if I had to bet, no pun intended, that there's some sort of point shaving or nefarious activity going on in college football or basketball, I'm all in. I'm all in. Now, we would never be able to prove it theoretically, but I'm totally all in.
Yeah, no, that's something that you got to nip in the bud. And this is why, what have we always said, Dave? This is why Pete Rose was permanently banned from the Hall of Fame. Gambling on, and by the way, I think Calvin Ridley should permanently be banned from the NFL. He never should have been allowed back in the game. If you gamble on the sports you play, I don't even care if you're gambling on things not involving you. I don't care if you're gambling on yourself to win. It is a gigantic question to the integrity of the game.
I agree.
And you got to nip that in the bud. Now, you're right. The NCAA, look, I'll just be honest with you. With a school like Kent State, if they find out Kenni Burns was doing that, look, they might have to go so hard as to institute another death penalty just to make a point. Like, you cannot be gambling on this sport at all.
I got no problem. All right, so let's put a little poll question. Do you believe that games are affected by gambling? You can put it out there however you want to. Now, Nathaniel says pro wrestling did okay. It did, but when did they really take off? It was about the late 80s or so, Caleb, when they were involved with a lawsuit, a trademark lawsuit about the acronym WWF. Somebody else had it, and the World Wrestling Federation got so big that the other place was like, whoa, you're taking our acronym. We're mad about it now. And while they were on the stand, they had to admit to the matches being, as of course they were, predetermined. But they didn't want to admit that. But I will say this, once they came out and admitted, the sport actually got bigger.
Yeah, well, the reason it got bigger for WWF, it actually hurt a lot of the other sport. Wrestling was very territorial at the time. And WWF was just one of the territories in the Northeast. But the reason it worked for WWF and not other ones is WWF, they didn't value in-ring abilities. They're like, no, we're in the entertainment business. We're here to promote people who know how to talk trash on the microphone. So you kind of go to WWF matches to see how good people are at talking. You don't really go to see what they do in the ring.
Sam said there's almost 100% chance of big gambling scandal in major college athletics in the next 5 years.
Well, I think the Kenni Burns thing is the next 1 month. So
yeah, I was going to say 2 years at the very most.
So let's look. We are walking a very tight line here. But Dave, let's just speculation. Do you think Kenni Burns was shaving points?
I mean, based off the information you've given me, I wouldn't jump 100% in it. I wouldn't even say the majority of my thought process is there. But 40% makes me think he did the most dastardly thing in sports, and that's pretty strong.
I agree. And look, it doesn't explain. It's the only thing to explain how bad they were. You watched that Kent State game, Dave. Have you ever seen a football team as bad as Kent State was in that game?
No, they were bad. And I will say this too. I thought I knew college football really well. I mean, I spent 25 years covering it, and more than that, 27 years covering it. And I was a big fan before then. So I thought I knew it all. But man, when I watched that Connor Stallions thing, and there's this subculture, I don't know if you've seen that 30 for 30 thing, how they get up on Sunday morning and they exchange all this information among these bunch of goofballs that don't even get paid, that just are sycophants to the college game. Wow, that opened my eyes. So if somebody told me with all the money that's at stake, there's not some people pulling some strings and doing some things they shouldn't be doing, that would not surprise me at all.
No, not me either. And that's what this looks like. So, I mean, just to point this out, this is going to blow up in a huge way. And I'll just put it out there. Josh Heupel's not going to get implicated in this, in the sense that no one thinks he's involved.
Oh, no, I know.
But he might be asked to testify just as evidence against Kent State. Like, is there something is there something Josh Heupel was suspicious about? Remember this, Dave. Remember this. This is the big part of this game. Josh Heupel did an onside kick in the first quarter. Remember? And we're like, why are you running up the score on Kent State like that? But in the second half, he totally ran all clock and just kicked 2 field goals to get out of there. It's almost like he knew something was off with what Kent State was doing with their decision to not run the clock in the second half.
To the message board, brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo at Quality Tire Pros that Dave, Caleb, and Off the Hook Sports said, "Hey, Bo." This is a great point that I cannot find all of a sudden. My goodness. That's frustrating. Okay. Caleb, somebody made reference to the officials. Now, I would not be surprised at all if there's a gambling scandal and it revolves around officials. No, that wouldn't surprise me.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, there are actually when there already have been. And this is where, here's the issue, Dave. My issue is that the federal government hasn't gotten involved yet. I know people are like, oh, Congress shouldn't get involved in anything. No, this is something they should get involved in. Okay, there should be like I said before, unless you're a member of Congress, which that's stupid. Most people can't do insider trading. You can't. That's illegal, right? The federal government says you can't do insider trading. If you even do a hint of it, you go to prison. Martha Stewart. Someone told Martha Stewart that the stock was going to collapse and she needs to move her money, and she had to go to prison for a year because she listened to that person. Like,
yeah, I don't think that should be illegal, by the way.
Insider trading?
Yeah, I don't.
Really?
Know who you know.
Well, okay, maybe but the insider trading goes way more nefarious than what Martha Stewart did a lot of times. Okay, but what I'm saying is, like, she went to prison for a year. How is betting on the sports you played not insider trading?
It is. Yeah, no, it is. I think it's more likely to happen in basketball than football, and here's why. Because an official has so many bang close calls in basketball. I mean, you can the charge block call is the toughest call to make of any official, right?
The toughest by far.
I could call balls and strikes today, and I haven't done so in 20 years, and I'd hit 95%. You can put the thing out there and test me if you want. But the charge block call is terribly difficult. So you just err on one side to one team. The other way that it's really easy to fix a basketball game is don't miss a bunch of shots, because that's obvious. When you got a guy who's a good shooter, let's say Chaz Lanier threw up about 3 bricks. You'd be like, oh my gosh, that's a good shooter, and he's fixing the game because he's throwing up 3 bricks. You just don't play defense.
Yeah.
You just play weak defense. You let guys get around you. It's not noticeable.
Bite on a crossover.
Very easy. Very, very easy to fix. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. I remind you once again, it is absolutely truck month. And how awesome is that? They have got the F-150s. They've got the heavy-duty cars right there. The heavy-duty trucks, I should say. And they've got over 60 models available for you to pick up at tedrussellford.net. Check them out online, tedrussellford.net. You'll love the buying experience with Ted Russell Ford or Ted Russell Lincoln. It's just unbelievable. It's not like that anywhere else. And you'll love the selection, as they are East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. The trucks on the lot this weekend have to go by Monday at 8 o'clock, because that's the end of truck month. So check them out, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net, as this next topic could get you riled, because it is Georgia just with the heavy right foot once again. Who is surprised? Not me.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or...
All right, Caleb, give us an update on the poll question. What is that?
All right. So, do you believe the NCAA games are affected by gambling? 95% say yes, 5% say no. And let's not even think about this too before we move on, Dave. I just want to add this: players are talking about the because a lot of other states allow prop bets on college athletes, which I'm a little questionable with, and players are talking about they're feeling the pressure to deliver on their prop bets because they get so much harassment online if they don't. And they may not even be gambling, but they may make decisions in the game because of the pressure they're going to get from people who have gambled on them.
All right. So the University of Georgia has absolutely got to make Kirby Smart aware that he's on the hot seat, because there's been another player that has been caught going over 100 miles an hour, and Kirby Smart's players are endangering people. These are not players that are smoking a little weed in their dorm room or nowadays their estate. These are players who are out in fast cars who have only driven a couple of years in their life, and they have no respect for the laws of the road. We saw a player wreck a car into a house. We now have another player. Caleb, it's well over a dozen. I don't even know how many it is at this point. Perhaps you do. But if you're the University of Georgia, you've got to take a stand and do something.
Yes, and remember that, guys. This is Nitro Tuggle, Georgia's wide receiver. This is part of the story we covered last week with Nitro Tuggle and Marcus Easley both getting arrested at different times. Tuggle reckless driving, Marcus Easley crashed into a house. We have more details on the Tuggle arrest, and it's more disturbing than we thought. Because first off, reckless driving 107 miles per hour. That is something we probably expected, right? But it wasn't confirmed. 42 miles over the speed limit. So he was doing it on Georgia State Route 10, on the Georgia State Route 10 loop outside of Athens in a 2021 Dodge Charger, and his girlfriend was in the car. Here's where it gets even more disturbing. There were other motorists on the highway at the time. Typically when they do this, they try to do it at areas and periods where nobody's on the highway, right?
Yes.
That's one. Two, when Tuggle was pulled over, he stopped his vehicle in the right lane rather than the shoulder, which I don't get. And then also,
wait, he pulled it over where?
He stopped. He was asked. A police officer pulled him over, and he stopped in the right lane rather than the shoulder.
That's like the scene from Black Sheep when they're accidentally on nitrous and they pull over in the middle of the road, and the cop says, mostly when I pull people over, they pull over on the shoulder, not the middle of the road. And Chris Farley says, how fast were we going? 70, 80? He goes, 7. You're going 7. Because they're high on nitrous. But the Georgia players, fortunately, aren't high on nitrous, but maybe you want them to be so they'd slow down a little bit.
Well, the police officer says here's where it gets crazy. Not only did he pull over on the shoulder, when Tuggle was instructed to exit the vehicle, he was about to get out without putting it in park.
Okay.
And so that's when he ended up being placed under arrest. So let's think about all this. You're going 107 miles an hour. You pull over in the right lane, not the shoulder, and then you try to get out of the vehicle without putting it in park.
Okay, it's hard to believe that he wasn't intoxicated, but I'm sure that that's the first thing they ask. With the body cams now, you don't get away with any of that. So I don't think he was intoxicated, but he sounded intoxicated, or he just sounded really immature, which he is, which is why I don't know if I'm Kirby Smart, what I'm doing other than pulling my hair out. I would like to institute a rule that you can't get a sports car until you've been at the University of Georgia for 2 years. But then that'll cost you prospects, because goodness knows that Carson Beck has shown Georgia players they have to have a Lambo to be significant. So, Caleb, I don't know what you do about this with Kirby Smart. I think this is the administrative level. And the one thing I always liked about Nick Saban, and you made reference to this early in the program, I do think he wanted to do things the right way. He wanted to build his ego. He wanted to build his resume. He wanted to show off his hubris. But ultimately, he wanted, I do believe, what's right for the sport. I don't know that Kirby Smart has that trait. I think Kirby Smart might just be a facsimile of Saban, a copy, except the bottom corner was cut off about how he really loves college football and he cares about people in his community, be it Tuscaloosa or Athens. I don't know that Kirby Smart has that. I think at the end of the day, he believes to himself, if I win 7 national championships like Nick, then everybody's going to love me. And it doesn't matter if they go 280 miles an hour in a Lambo. I think that's the way he thinks.
I can't go there. I think he's actually having a harder time than we think with this. Look, my thing is, like, most of his punishments for the players that have done things, Dave, if you took them in a vacuum, they're appropriate punishments for these traffic accidents. These are the type of suspensions you do. This is how you punish players of things you deem fair. I don't know.
He has to come to the table if I'm administration, and he has to give me more. He has to say, if a guy's caught once, I'm going to put a tracking device on his car so I know if he's going over the speed limit. I'm taking it a way big step further, Caleb.
Well, I yes, but the thing is, all these guys that have been caught, they've all been just caught once. Like, and so, like, here's it. Like, it's like the rule is fair as far as, like, you don't want to ruin a kid's life for making a dumb traffic decision, even if they are endangering other people's lives, because we've all been. I mean, look, we've all done dumb traffic things in college, haven't we? Like,
yeah, done dumb traffic things this morning.
So, I mean, when you say that, I just think that it's hard for me to say that Kirby Smart doesn't care. Kirby Smart is more of a carbon copy of Nick Saban than I've ever seen a carbon copy of another coach in a lot of ways. I think was Gene Stallings maybe a carbon copy of Bear Bryant? I don't know, maybe. But like,
not as good of a coach, but definitely a carbon copy. Adam says Kirby Smart is compromised because he sees himself as a Bulldog for life. Saban just saw Bama as a place to succeed. I'm going to flip-flop that a little bit, if you don't mind. I think that actually Kirby Smart is more tied to the university, so he would be more apt to come down on these juvenile discipline issues, as opposed to Saban, I think, was always willing to say, I could go turn Washington into a 3-time national champion.
I think you're right, and we forget this. Georgia is one of the easiest jobs to succeed at. Kirby, when he got to Georgia, one of the reasons that Kirby is this way, it's actually not Kirby, it's a Georgia culture thing, because I'm going to say, like, I think I've told you the story before. Guys, I mean, you know, I don't like when schools do this, but Georgia gets to do this for the Mark Richt years. During the Mark Richt years, Georgia can literally say they cost themselves a national title because of their commitment to integrity. I mean, I think you would agree with me on that, right, Dave? Under Mark Richt, they were very committed to integrity as a program.
Yes. I think that before the money got wacko, that they would, and before Nick Saban did what he did at Alabama, Georgia was of the mindset, win 10 games, have a squeaky clean program. That's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And then they got frustrated in the 2010s of constantly losing the big ones to Alabama or whoever. And then they fired Mark Richt. They bring in Kirby Smart, and they say, we don't want morals anymore. We're tired of these class standards for the athletes. We're tired of these punishments, when they do things wrong. Just win, baby. And Kirby Smart said, I can do that for you easily. And so this is, I mean, if you think about it, this culture issue is embedded in why Kirby Smart was hired in the first place. They didn't want the Rick Barnes squeaky clean coach anymore, doing all things right by the book. They wanted the coach throwing integrity to the wayside and saying, you know what? I tried being nice and it didn't work. So middle fingers to everybody. I'm going to go win.
At the end of the day, do you think Georgia's administration will take the stance that I did, and that is you're officially on the hot seat if this stuff continues to happen?
No.
Or you're already on the hot seat, or they championships?
No, I think Georgia is bitter at all the national titles they missed out on in the 2000s and 2010s because of their integrity. And I think their thought process is, we tried integrity, it didn't work, and we're not going back to integrity because nobody else did it.
I think they should really look into this, and somebody referenced this on the message board. It should be Georgia football safely delivered by Uber, and that's their title sponsor. I mean, that's the worst idea.
No, it's not. And look, the thing I would warn to Georgia is that there is a healthy balance. Like, yeah, you tinker with the rules a bit, but Dave, you know this. You throw integrity to the wind, your program is wrecked for like a generation after. I mean, Florida still. I think Florida, tell me if I'm wrong, I think Florida still has trouble recruiting kids because of the culture that people know was around when Urban Meyer was there. And a lot of parents don't want their kids involved in that.
Derek says, I had a G35 before I was old enough to drink, and my name was on the title. I went 155 in it on 840 about 20 years ago. I was dumb too. Fastest you've been in a car, Caleb?
I was a teetotaler. So I probably never, I mean, not that I didn't speed as a teenager, but I probably never got above 90. So I'm a genuine. Yes, I follow the rules and I haven't put anybody's lives at risk. Soft, very soft of me, guys. You know.
All right, the show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. T. Scott Jones will. He definitely will, and he won't settle. He won't settle for less. He'll make sure that you get the judgment that is in your best interest. Also, Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net. Over 60 vehicles that are brand new that have to go. They're making deals crazy time up until Monday at 8 p.m. Please stop by and see them. And when you do, please say Off the Hook Sports and Dave Hooker sent me. Mean a lot. And we're still looking for models, Ashley. So go ahead and it was Caleb's idea to bring that up. He's the creepy one. Creepy Caleb.
What are you talking about? That was not my idea.
Oh, sounds better than me. You're in your mid-30s. I'm 50. It is definitely creepy for me. But we are doing the calendar. So it's going to be tasteful. But do you think jerseys or orange bikini?
How about jersey bikinis? You can make it work like that. You know, I'm just saying.
All right, have a fantastic day, everyone. Tennessee plays, of course, Kentucky. I've got the Vols winning 72-68. Not covering. Caleb, you?
I have got Tennessee being very angry about what has transpired over the last two times that they played Kentucky, and I've got them winning 76-64.
Somebody's saying they had a Corolla on the message board that would only go 54 miles an hour. What's more disappointing, getting a speeding ticket going 135 or whatever, or the fact that you've got it to the floor and your car won't go over 54 miles an hour? Both probably equally disturbing, correct?
One puts lives at risk.
Well, if you're doing 54 miles an hour on I-40, your life is at risk.
Yes, but your life is also at risk if you're doing 135, and you're putting other lives at risk too.
All right, you're way out the door. Hit that thumbs up button.